What's up, everybody? Hope that you guys are having a great Saturday afternoon. Gonna bring you guys another one of these awesome GLC Async Playoff matches. Today we've got Mr. Lee Hoffman taking on PokeRon in a really cool matchup where we've got Lee Hoffman on the left-hand side piloting the Cursed Kiss deck against PokeRon and his water hydro pump style deck. A little bit more interesting type of build from this hydro pump deck than some of the other ones that we're used to seeing in the community. So look forward to seeing this matchup, see how it plays out. I know that they have went ahead and rolled for first, second in game one, and Ron has won the toss, elected to go second in this first game. So we have seen the Cursed Kiss deck. We saw that the other night from Spence, but now we've got Lee piloting the same deck. The only difference is he's playing the not Ancient Trait Nod 2. Doesn't have that in the list yet. PokeRon's build is quite different from most of the GLC Hydro Pump builds that you're going to see out there. He is playing the Articuno with its Ancient Trait, where if it does take a knockout, he gets to take an additional prize. Got an interesting Snom that puts the opponent to sleep on a coin flip. Just some different cards that you don't see in every single water list, guaranteed. So I'm really excited to see how this one plays out between these two decks. Looks like we do have a mulligan from Lee's side of the board, as Ron has found a basic. Lee going first, going to turn over that Natu. Against Frigibax. Start. All right, Lee draws off the top. Looks like a ball guy that he picked up. Won't be able to play that going first. Eyeing up a Fog Crystal for his first play. Definitely going to want to get some of these basic Pokemon into play. Big basic attackers like the Iron Boulder. Definitely things that he's going to look to set up, along with the Mimikyu to copy certain attacks like the Kyogre's attack to be able to knock out on the bench. And some other options he could go with to start getting these evolution Pokemon into play, being the Duskull and the Togepi. We want to try to get to the Dusknoir line and the Togekiss line so that we can start flipping coins, trying to take additional prize cards. So off this Fog Crystal, I'm guessing that Lee's eyeing up a basic Pokemon. And there's the Boulder, as previously mentioned. Big basic attacker that you can get an attachment to turn one going first that kind of makes things a little bit scary for your opponent. Level Ball as well, so we're also going to see one of those evolving basics come down. Also Ralts, notably, is another piece to the puzzle, the Gallade line. Gallade's super strong in Gym Leader Challenge, being able to search out the exact supporter that you want every turn of the game. And off the Level Ball, looks like he's eyeing up the Ralts. Go ahead and bench that down. So Lee's turn, even though going first, he is starting to establish these Pokemon lines that you want to see from the Cursed Kiss build. An attachment here would be Creme de la Creme. See if we do have an energy to drop on this Boulder. Yep, basic Psychic down onto the Boulder. And a pass from there as Ron draws his first card and going to start us off with a Nest Ball. Now Ron, on the other hand, Ron's going to look to set up some energy accelerators. We already got the Frigibax in the active spot, but could eye up the Hisuian Basculin to be able to gather the crew off of this nest ball. Just an attachment and a retreat would be able to search out 2 additional Pokemon, get those down onto his bench. So I imagine that Hisuian Basculin works into this equation some way, Sobble down onto the bench. May forego that if he feels like he already has access to all the basics that he wants. There's a Quick Ball as well. I imagine Quick Balling away a water energy tells me that probably has access to at least 1 more water energy and or retreat tool. Now I imagine this would fetch out the Basculin if it's not prized. Remoraid, okay. So we are foregoing the Basculin at the moment, unless, like I said, it's prized. Basculin is just a lower HP Pokemon, so maybe feels like it's a little bit of a liability, but at the same time, he does have Basculegion in the deck as well to evolve into, so I imagine that it's probably just not in the equation. All right, pass back over to Lee. And now Lee is going to look to take aggression now. Right, this Iron Boulder is going to be able to start getting in there as early as this turn with 1 more attachment, maybe a retreat tool. You know, Lee has the ball guy, so go ahead and rip that. Be able to search his deck for up to 3 balls. We've got the Timer Ball, we've got the Nest Ball, we've got the Quick Ball being eyed up. Probably already done the prize assessment, realizing what if he does or does not need the Hisuian Heavy Ball here. So opting to leave that in the deck. We're going to go Timer Ball first. We've got double heads, it looks like, off a Timer Ball. So if that's any indication of how this match is going to go, then Lee could be in for a good afternoon. Off the Timer Ball, I would imagine, yep, the Xatu and the Kirlia come down. Get both of those lines further established, be able to draw some cards, attach those energies freely, and draw extra while attaching extra energy per turn. Lee going to go ahead and evolve both of those guys. And then play some of these other balls that he elected for off the ball guy. We've got a Nest Ball coming down. I imagine Nest Ball is going to get either Togepi or Duskull access to one of those, so we can start getting into those evolutions. I do see a Gladion in Lee's hand, so that's probably a possible other reason why he didn't opt for the Hisuian Heavy Ball. Maybe a middle evolution's prized. So here comes the Duskull. I know that the Duskull in this matchup is going to be particularly important, the Dusknoir line, rather, as it is Lee's kind of technology to try to deal with a Wailord in 1 turn. Not necessarily 1 hit, he would give up a prize card in doing so, but if he's able to knock out a Wailord clean on a turn with a Wobbuffet, then that would be his ideal way to deal with a Wailord. Refinement going to pitch the Gladion, pick up a couple extra cards. Clairvoyant Sense going to drop down a Psychic Energy and draw 2 more, drawn off of the Refinement. Togepi in hand. I imagine that Togepi is going to come down. There we go. Pass back over to Ron with an immediate evolution into an Arctibax in the active and a Octillery on the bench. Lee must not have had access to the retreat tool. Maybe the hands weren't matching either. Just opting to pass. With this Xatu in the active, it is a little risky though. But seeing the evolution into the Arctibax tells me that Ron is probably not launching a meaningful attack this turn, not being behind on prizes, and now also not having the full energy accelerant online. And Lee probably had a good read on that as well, I could imagine, because of the way that Ron has been playing the cards down so far. There's not been, like I said, there was no gather the crew, so obviously there were specific lines targeted, but if the Drizzile does not come down into play this turn, then makes you wonder why the Sobble itself was eyed up. We are going to attach to the Sobble, and there is the Drizzile. So Drizzile was definitely in hand, and so that's the consideration. There's a reason for Ron's decisions off of the balls that he selected. Though, like I had said, you could have got Basculin involved and done this a little bit more efficiently, I think, unless, again, and this is just something that I don't know, I don't have access to, but Basculin may be prized. All right. Off the Drizzile, we're going to get Water's favorite supporter in Irida. Go search out an Autumn card and a Water Pokemon. I'm seeing many cards in Ron's hand, so this Abyssal hand is going to come in pretty strong. I don't see the hand size, but I know that there's not too many. So here we go. We've got the board starting to now get developed. We've got Buddy Buddy Poffin and Kyogre off of the Irida. Fetch out 2 more of those basic under 70 HP guys. Imagine here we're looking for the Snom, right? And then that's probably just... Okay, so Basculin was in the deck whole time. I guess this routing works. The only difference is that you have your Arctibax in the active here rather than, having the 1 retreat Basculin up in the active at this point already. So this routing works. It's definitely fine, but could have been a little bit different. I'm going to show him how many cards he has. Draw up to 5 with Octillery. Sibian Heavy Ball. Now Ron's going to try to burn, obviously, to try to get back down in hand size so that Lee cannot match him easily. Cool. It's like Ron read my mind. I wanted an idea of how many cards he had in hand. Just lays it out there for me beautifully. 4 cards in Ron's hand. Lee's turn started now. And Lee's mapping out, my guess is if he can get into a Togekiss this turn, can start taking knockouts as early as this turn, even with just an attached retreat to the Xatu. It's 1 retreat cost. The eyeing up an Avery Flash. Is it going to play Refinement it away for 2 cards? Lee mapping out, I'm guessing at this point, how to get down to 4. Because the Arctibax is definitely a juicy target to just come up and take down itself. You don't... It's being offered up to you at this point, right? So you definitely want to take a knockout on this Pokemon if you can. As we know that way more valuable than the Frostmoth, as it can accelerate energy everywhere. It's a good attacker, big HP, so definitely want to deal with this guy now if you can. He's got a bunch of cards in his hand, though. Mulling over these decisions of what to burn off of what looks like an Ultra Ball. Yeah. Alright, Ultra Ball is going to discard the Dusclops and the Hisuian Heavy Ball, it looks like. Sorry, going to discard the Dusk Noir and fetch out the Dusclops. All those full art ghostly guys look pretty similar, as they kind of follow the same line in their full art artworks done by the same artist. So right here, Lee's going to initiate prize trade. We're going to take out what looks to be like both accelerators is the goal. So pops the Dusclops to be able to put 5 damage counters on the Snom. That takes a prize card. Also pushes Ron up to 5 cards in hand, as Ron will take his prize card as well. We got Reversal Energy for Retreat into Boulder. And we're going to show a match of 5-5 and take the knockout on the Arctivax. So this puts Ron in a very kind of broken position, as Lee is able to take out both of the accelerators in one go. And notably, Ron is only running basic water energies, so now he does not really have access to an attack this turn again. This Iron Boulder will get to continue to swing freely. Alright, Ron's going to bench the Articuno, attach an energy to the Kyogre. He could get into Inteleon this turn, but again, Inteleon's not going to knock out the Boulder. There are no damage buffs in the list that I can see. Just a Float Stone, a Lux Cape, and a Pot Helmet for the tools. Guzman's going to bring the Xatu back up. Bring up the Kyogre so that it can perhaps wave summoning. That's what we're going to see. Wave summoning down to that Kyogre. Getting it a turn closer to being able to attack, but Ron, again, not establishing any of the accelerators means that he is going to have a tough time just responding to this Iron Boulder if Lee can bring it back up again and keep swinging. Lee going to play down an Evolution Incense. Has Togekiss in his hand. So this could go fetch out Gallade, perhaps. Gallade can stitch us together a Rare Candy Togekiss. I'm guessing we're going to check to see if Arven's in the deck. And then also the hand match game. So this is where Lee's playing now, is the hand match game. How can I get down to same amount of cards and still getting pieces into play. Maybe he opts for a slower route, but he is going to evolve. And here comes the play with the Arven. Arven's going to fetch out, my guess would be a rare candy and retreat tool. There's the float stone. There's the mysterious treasure. Okay. Play down the rare mysterious treasure and discard the Goose Hollow. And get Mr. Mom to protect the bench from this Kyogre, were there to be any shenanigans with Kyogre next turn. But I know that Kyogre cannot effectively launch an attack next turn. The board that I'm looking at. And Rescue Stretcher being played. Gonna get back the Duskull. And put it back down on the bench. Inevitably coming back up into this Iron Boulder, showing a match of a hand size of 5. And taking out the Kyogre. So now Kyogre out of the equation as well. Inteleon at this point would be your most valid attacker. And it's going to do 120 and still not knock out this Iron Boulder. So Ron's in a bit of a tough spot. As Lee is rushed down to 3 prize cards without even activating the Kiss part of the Cursed Kiss strategy. As he would say, it's just cursed right now. If you're Ron here, this is a pretty tough hole to dig out of. You could Grudge Dive with the Bascule Legion as well for 1 energy. Hitting in. So maybe that's the play that he's looking at with promoting this Basculin. We're going to get a Peony. Discarding Superior, Brooklet Hill. A bunch of good cards there. But now, with Peony, we can fetch out Dive Ball as one of the pieces to get Inteleon. And Inteleon can get a couple more pieces. Probably gets us into the Bascule Legion attack. But maybe not. It's a lot of cards. It's a lot of cards needed. So Evolution Instance being odd up is one of the targets. And Rescue Stretcher. Stretcher's going to bring back the Snom, the Frostmoth, and the Frigibax and put those back into the deck for a shuffle. An Evolution Instance played. You imagine this is probably getting Inteleon to continue this cycle. Yep. Inteleon going to be evolved for 2 trainer cards with its shady dealings. I like this routing from Ron, but it just seems like some of the earlier turns, like I had mentioned, put him in a spot where you just kind of offered up all the pieces to Lee to be able to pop both your accelerators at the same time. I would have liked to have saw that Basculin in the act of gathering the crew as early as turn 1, as we did see everything there. There was an energy that got pitched off of a quick ball So that could have even been the attached retreat to the Frigibacks. Oh, I'm overlooking. So, okay, so I understand. So, and this is why I do not play this Frigibacks. I get it. The 70 HP, very important, but the one retreat Frigibacks, is definitely the preferred one in my book. This one does have 2 retreat, so it would have made it a little bit harder to get into the Basculin. So Ron's going to gather the crew now and get the Whalmer down. It has very few cards in the hand at this point. Let's pull up. Yeah, 60 HP Frigibacks, but no Manaphy in the list, so I guess I understand not playing it. It's just tough for me, especially in decks where you're playing Basculin and Lowland Vulpix is Pokemon that you really want to get into that first turn. You know, if you're playing 2 retreat Pokemon, then it makes that ever much harder. Alright, Lee's going to push an escape rope here and force up a different Pokemon from Ron's side. Ron elects to send up the Articuno. Not much invested into that at this point, even though it could be a little bit of a comeback kind of card. Ron opting to go ahead and send that up, and Lee eyeing up a Marnie to try to even this hand size. Bring Ron to 4 cards and Lee to 5, where he can just play down 1, then he can match the hand size of Ron. Artisan put into play and immediately discarded because of the Chaotic Swell, and then a Marnie played by Lee. Put Ron's 1 card to the bottom and force him to draw 4 in this instance, and Lee draws 5. And then there is attached for turn to get Lee back down to 4. Retreat into the Iron Boulder. Just keep swinging with this thing. Monster. Taking all the prize cards at this point. All right, and Ron now will promote the Inteleon. I imagine that this turn he can try to attack with it, but the problem is that this Iron Boulder is an annoying HP for most of the attackers in Gym Leader Challenge at 140 HP. So it's a little bit different of a magic number, and like I mentioned, there's no damage buff tools. Colress's going to be played for big effect here of non, shuffle draw of non. So maybe Ron could draw into Wailord and Frostmoth. We know the Superior is already down, and Nessa can't be played this turn. Not sure how many waters are accounted for, but he is playing all the search options to search out the water energy as well. Can't imagine that it's too many down. Though notably only does play 8 in the list. So even 3 could make this a little bit tougher. There's the Basculegion. So that's a good thing to see for Ron. A little bit beefier guy coming down the stretch. maybe could make an impact for him with its grudge dive attack. Like I said, I would like to see Ron try to get into this Whale Lord and try to make it where Lee has to have some kind of play coming down the stretch. But we're just going to play down a couple of cards from the hand. So was a 9-card hand, played down 2. We got 7 left. And then the Aqua Bullet, which will do 120 to the active and nothing to the bench because of the Mr. Mom's bench barrier. And if Lee could just match this turn and take this knockout with the Glade already on board, loaded up, it would seem like it's already inevitable. Rescue Stretcher is going to bring back, my guess would be the Clops. Yep, that's Clops bring back. And then we're going to pop the Dusclops and get the Snom again. So now Lee can win this turn with just a hand match. There's Judge. Judge guarantees the shuffle draw 4. And that will be the game number 1. Lee taking that one down in pretty convincing fashion. Yeah, Spence, this is definitely the first game of the 3. So Lee takes down game number 1. Pretty convincing fashion. Ron just not able to get out of the gates. Got both of his energy accelerators chased down very early in the game, as Arctivax was in the act and just kind of sitting there ready to be nailed. And Snom, while being a great Pokemon when it evolves into Frostmoth, is a huge liability at 50 HP because of what we're seeing here with the Duskull. Just puts it in such a bind. Lee either maybe got a phone call or something that's interrupted him for a brief moment here mid-match, but thankfully because it's middle of the game, there's no actions being taken, then we just let Lee kind of step away for a second, see what's going on, and then he'll be back in just a minute. With these webcam games, I know a lot of our players use their phones for their setup and display, and nowadays a phone is way more clear than most webcams that you can even buy, so that unfortunately becomes a little bit of a problem because of modern day technology and batteries and charging. So I know sometimes phones also may die in the middle of a match. Like I said, good at least that we made it through that first game, and now we just wait for Lee to kind of come back into the fray. Now, I guess while Lee is gone, a couple of the things that I can bring up, yeah, that's kind of what I figured, is the phone probably getting a little bit warm. But one of the things that I can bring up is from Lee's side, if this Whale Lord ever does get into play early and start aggressing on to Lee, one thing that Lee can do to make it pretty tough on Ron's side would be to initiate the Curse Blast from the Dusknoir, put 13 damage counters onto the whale, and then come up with Wobbuffet, and Wobbuffet's Psychic Barrage attack would put the Whale Lord down because of the damage that was already on there from the 13 damage counters. Here comes Lee back into the game. Like I said, maybe just a battery or call or overheat. Who knows? Now, Lee, I am going to need you to center that just a little bit better. Take your palm tree side and go up a little bit with it. Yeah, pull your phone down. Yep. There you go. Beautiful. Right there's, yep, right there's perfect. You good? All right. So going into this second game, Lee having already taken game one. Now we will look to see if Ron can respond. Ron's going to start out with a mulligan here. Show Lee a hand with no Pokemon. We do see Ron flash a Rahan there. So a little bit of technology where Ron could, kind of splash a Pokemon out quickly if he were to get some energy into the discard pile. And Lee did find a basic, so Lee will have the advantage of an extra card. Probably is going first again by Ron's decision there. All right, Lee going to flip over Ralts. Ron going to show us a Remoraid. And it looks like Ron elected to go first here. Interesting. Get Lee fixed back here just a little bit better. So Ron going to play down the Remoraid for the starter, Nest Ball for the Whalmer, and then another card played here, pitching a Water Energy, it looks like. Find out here in just a second what that card is. All right, we're going to get a Sobble down on the bench, though, from that ball card. Must have been a quick ball or an ultra ball. Snom benched as well. Snom being benched early means that it can get evolved quicker. I know that, we have our resident player of water, Ghouls, who has been rocking and rolling with a Snom Whale Lord build. We saw him take down his game last night from the Async League Playoffs. Against Spooky. Lee gonna quick ball away this Guzma. And the same things apply in this game as to last game for Lee. We're going to want to get the big attackers down, the big efficient attacker down, being the iron boulder. And we're going to get these evolving pieces into play. Wobbuffet coming down here indicates that Lee is going to be trying to lock down the abilities going into the next turn. And Arvin tells me that we're probably going at a TM evolution angle. Buddy Buddy popping TM evolution. Buddy Buddy popping going to get out these evolving basics. Looking at like the Duskull here and the probably Duskull and Togekiss. If not the Mimikyu, he may value getting out an attacker in the Mimikyu. Mimikyu is kind of perfect, has that 70 HP and also a valid attacker. All right, no, we're just going to go for both the evolving guys, and I definitely like that. Now we must have some way to move this Ralts Floatstone onto the Ralts. Up into the Wobbuffet. Wobbuffet, one of the most annoying Pokemon for water to deal with, as it shuts off all abilities other than Psychic Pokemon. So this is a strong way to develop your board. This is kind of like the way that I would have liked to have saw Ron develop it the first game, but like we had mentioned, now that I know, no Togekiss game 1. Togekiss never came out. It was in the hand for quite a while, and Togetic definitely got evolved into later into the game. I thought that there was one point where he was eyeing up a rare candy with Arvin play into the Togekiss, because Togekiss was already in the hand, but definitely going to try to establish it, like you say in the chat. Yep, shut down all the water abilities going into the next turn. Frostmoth will be turned off, and Octillery will be turned off if evolved into, and also the Shady Dealings, Drizzile. So we're going to get it with a level ball. Hope that Ron is aware. Ron, you cannot do that. Wobbuffet shutting down the abilities. You can evolve that Pokemon, but we've all been here. We've all been here. Let's check in and see what may be going on. I'm going to mute and see. Okay, so we are just going to go ahead and play ball. And I like that call. I think that that's what I would have advised in the situation. Ron did not have the deck long enough to have obtained knowledge. The bottom card potentially, but at this point, just play ball. So Ron does rip the Iono, and off of it finds Kyogre to put down on the bench. No other evolutions, though, at the moment, as that definitely probably messed Ron up significantly, thinking that he had access to the Shady Dealings and now finding out that he does not. If I were Ron, one thing that I would be getting off this dive ball would be the way to evolve this Frostmoth, as we've seen. We're going to go with the whale. But again, you're staring at a Dusclops. Slow attach to the whale. Attach one Lux Cape. And pass. And I imagine the first thing that Lee will do very quickly on in this turn would be to do what he's done 3 times at this point. We'll see if he does decide to take that line. Puts Artisan into play so that he can fetch out a basic Pokemon. Probably now eyeing up one of those attackers, the Iron Boulder. Here it comes. Now that the whale's on board, Lee also may be looking further down the line to try to save this Dusclops till it gets to a Dusk Noir to pop the whale. No. Same play that we've seen 3 times now. Take out the energy accelerator. Make life incredibly hard for the water player. Not Stretcher, bring the Duskull right back. Lee knows how important this Pokemon is, especially in this matchup, to be able to recycle and be able to fix your math time and time again. Refinement away the Hisuian Heavy Ball for 2. Not sure exactly how many cards we're looking at for Lee, but it's definitely more than the 3 on Ron's side. Capture Energy. Gonna fetch out another basic Pokemon. At this point, probably the Xatu. Yep. Natu, so that we can get the Xatu evolved into as early as next turn. Start accelerating energies from our side of the board. Evolution Incense. Gonna pick up the Togetic and go ahead and evolve the Togetic. So now Togekiss just 1 turn away from being online. Gallade just 1 turn away from being online. We've already seen the pop of the Dusclops once, so this is its 2nd turn being evolved into play. Lee is just kind of powering through the deck while saying you have no abilities. Trainer's Mail. Gonna fetch out 1 from the top 4. Got some options here. I would imagine with the attachment to the Wobbuffet, we're almost conceding that we're not attacking this turn. We put Artisan into play as well, so there's not going to be a Dimension Valley play. Probably just taking it slow, continuing to play it a little bit slower and develop your board for exactly where you want it so that, like I had mentioned, that Psychic Assault can deal with this Wailord later. And off the Trainer's Mail, Lee finds a Reizu. Perfect card for next turn, but going to go ahead and play it this turn, as all of these Pokemon that he's searched out have came into play just this turn. So he is loading the hand for next turn, which allows him to play a different supporter next turn, but also telegraphs that, hey, I now have these cards in my hand. So even the Erazu would telegraph that. But could get punished a little bit for this line. But I think that he's really far ahead board state wise at this point, that no real worry there. Back over to Ron now. And Ron's going to start this turn off with a Marnie. And so that's the kind of problem with playing that Erazu last turn, is that now those Pokemon that you wanted to evolve this coming turn are at the bottom of your deck. And Erazu is also gone from the deck. So if you get into Glade next turn, you can't search it out with Glade. Here comes the Escape Rope. Rope going to push the Wobbuffet and allow Ron to have abilities. But notably, no energy accelerators on the board. Marnie already played for turn, so no Raihan play to be able to accelerate the extra energy. And Lee's going to promote, looking like his Curlia with the Float Stone. Just kind of saying, okay, I don't think that you actually have a valid attack this turn. You're just using this rope to kind of stall me. So we do get the evolution into the Octillery. And Hisuian Heavy Ball will fail. Octillery now should be able to draw at least 3 more cards. The cards have been played down. And we've got to be digging for a way to get these energy accelerators established, try to get them back online. Pot Helmet. And draw of 4. I'm going to check out that discard pile and look for a play with it. He's going to go ahead and attach the energy to the Whale Lord. May have been checking to see if there were water energies in the discard pile for next turn, possibly. We're seeing this Kyogre getting knocked out. Maybe. Notably, Iron Boulder will do enough to hit through this Pot Helmet and take out this Kyogre if Lee had chose to leave it on. But it looks like he opted to get rid of the Pot Helmet. We got Timer Ball coming down. Oh, gets rid of the Pot Helmet and the Lux Cape. Yeah, so high value Field Blower there. Not really caring about the helmet, but definitely want to get that cape off the Whale Lord so that you can cleanly deal with it potentially. Timer Ball rolls 1 heads this time. We're going to fetch out the Xatu. Boulder is 2 energies away from being able to attack, but now that Clairvoyant Sense is online, we could get a double attachment this turn. Rescue Stretcher, going to bring back the Dusclops again and evolve it up. Dimension Valley coming down into play, so we now just need 1 energy. And there's a Judge to match the hands to 4. But now, Lee's kind of in a little bit of an interesting spot where Curly has been used. Supporter's been used. Dimension Valley's been put into play. And so even if you draw an energy, you're going to need an additional way to get cards. We'll see how he chooses to route this here. All right, yeah, and just retreat into Wobbuffet. Take the abilities back away, and Psychic Assault just putting 10 damage onto the Kyogre for later. Ron expanding the bench here. Looks like we're going to get another Pokemon placed down. And no Clairvoyant Sense that turn. No Clairvoyant Sense used. Yeah, definitely could have got back down. But we didn't see an energy played at all. So off the judge, must not have found an energy or a fog crystal anyway to search one out. Ron, off of his judge, gets a Buddy Poffin to get down Frigibax and Basculin. Ah, yes, so the 10 damage on the Kyogre now brings it within range of a Dusknoir play next turn. Dusknoir could be popped, taking out the Kyogre, and if Togekiss established, we can roll for an extra prize card without even swinging next turn. So we're going to get additional energy loaded onto the Wailord and Peony. And Peony from here probably is going to search out a way to bump Stadium and the Float Stone. I would imagine that Field Blower's odd up here, or maybe even just Swell. So we're going to get a Guzma for next turn and a letter presumably also for next turn. We've already attached this turn. And just a pass. We have 2 cards in hand, so Wobbuffet locking down the abilities. All right. So now back into it. Lee has found Professor's letter. So now we can get these additional energies pumped into play with Clairvoyant Sense. Found it off the Clairvoyant Sense. And then there's the Dusknoir. Lee eyeing up his discard pile. Got Versus Seeker in hand. Gonna play that Versus Seeker for the Guzma. Oh, are we going to see the play? Oh, I think we are. Here comes the whale. Blow up. And put 13 damage counters on that whale. And then we're coming up with Wobbuffet Psychic Assault for a clean 1-turn knockout on this Wailord. It came to prophecy. So that will net both players a prize card, but taking out the whale is incredibly strong play there from Lee. Very exciting. And still leaving Ron with no abilities again. Though Ron does have a Guzma in hand this turn, so he is going to be able to push that Wobbuffet. He has Guzma and Letter. So he was really banking on that whale surviving the turn. Hoffman just popping off, hitting the absolute blessed combo. All right, here we go. We got the Guzma played down. So Guzma's going to move this Wobbuffet, but now with no energy accelerators on board, no whale, this game is getting so far out of hand that we do not have much to do here. So now we're going to play the letter just to fail it. Both players are at 4 prize cards, but like chat's mentioning, both of Ron's prize cards have been donated to him by Lee blowing up a Dusclops and a Dusknoir. So Lee's been through that line twice now, fully. Octillery going to draw up to 5 for Ron. We see just how much of a pain, this is what I mentioned early on, we said just how much of a pain Wobbuffet is to water. And any of these decks that prey on having their abilities and needing them to be in play. Ron tried to evolve Drizzile through the Wobbuffet by Barricade, and that obviously does not work, so didn't get utilization out of that. It is now going to get this Inteleon into play, though, with its shady dealings can search out 2 trainer cards of its own. Maybe eyeing up a Rare Candy dive ball play to get Bax Caliber into play. So Ron establishing now. We're going to get Nessa and Rare Candy. But we've already seen Guzma played this turn. So the Nessa presumably for next turn. Yeah, and just a pass. So here we go with Lee's side. Field Blower did discard the Floatstone and the Dimension Valley, so Lee's going to have to work a little bit tougher now, a little bit harder now to maybe have his Pokemon attack, but there's already 2 energy on that Iron Boulder, there's already 2 energy on the Wobbuffet, so Lee does have options for attackers if he can move this Xatu. Checking through the discard pile, seeing what's been used at this point. We have Ball Guy. We're finally going to see this Togekiss come into play. Not from those 2. Choices there. We've got Nest Ball and Level Ball selected off of the Ball Guy. 4 cards in Ron's hand of note for this going into this turn. We know 2 of them. Pitching Guzma and Hala to draw 2 cards from the refinement. And looking for a way out for this Xatu. We're going to go ahead and Clairvoyant Sense, put 1 down onto the Kirlia and draw a couple more cards. Still, yeah, so I was going to mention the only thing that Lee could have to move would be the rope. So even if you do move another Pokemon up, you really want to deal with that Inteleon, but yeah. So this is what rope allows Lee to have the options to do, though, is that now we see that Kyogre promote. We're going to go right back up into the Wobbuffet. Just attach the counter energy down to the Kirlia in case anything goes awry this coming turn. Because we know that a Rare Candy and Nessa are loaded for Ron. But notably, even if a Rare Candy is loaded, then can't play down any of those energies if Wobbuffet's blocking your abilities. So we are going to see Psychic Assault for 20 damage this turn, putting that Kyogre up to 30. And Ron going to take his turn, immediately play down Brooklet Hill and use it. Ron's got to be eyeing up another attacking Pokemon possibly at this point, or even just to reset the deck. Yeah, there's the Articuno, so a potential way to grab a couple of prize cards from his attack if that ancient trait activates. And I'm going to go ahead and play down the Nessa. He's going to get back Excalibur out. And a bunch of water energies, it looked like. Rare Candy back Excalibur. Don't try to put those energies down, Ron. He's going to stop you again. 1 to the Kyogre for turn. Scoop up net on the Inteleon to rebench the Sobble. And wave summoning from the Kyogre to put an additional energy onto it, bringing it 1 step closer to attacking itself. Lee going to start his turn by pitching the level ball, drawing 2. I imagine that this turn Lee would I'd like to establish the Toga Kiss and take a knockout and try to start rolling for some of these additional prize cards. Because the longer that you play this game at Water's pace, even without abilities, 10, 20, 30 damage pings from Wobbuffet, they will add up, but not without your other strategies being in play, like the Toga Kiss and even Gallade at this point to be able to start handpicking some of these supporters. So Lee's determining that now's the time to start moving. We are going to get a retreat into this Iron Boulder, indicating that we are going to be able to match hand sizes with Ron, if not already there. 5 cards and 5 cards is what we're looking at, potentially, to attack for Lee. Lee's going to put down the Mystery Energy this turn onto Kirlia. I like that because now Gallade, if it comes into play, does have the necessary energy required to attack. Here comes a Marnie to disrupt those water energies out of Ron's hand. Lee knows that he's holding on to a couple there. This play also will guarantee Lee the ability to, if he can see one playable card, match the hand size. Oh yeah, we get the Toga Kiss, we get the match hand size, and Tails Flip on Wonder Kiss. So Lee does not get to take an additional prize card from that take, but does still move ahead in the prize race 3-4 at this point. Still in a pretty decent position because we know that right off from PokeRon's board, he does not have an easy way to deal with this Iron Boulder in one hit. 140 HP, very weird number for this deck that I'm looking at to deal with. Yeah, Toga Kiss being found off the Marnie is probably the perfect card that you want to see off of the Marnie in order to establish that line, as well as match that hand size. So definitely a big play there for Lee. And a Versus Seeker being played down here for Guzma. Guzmaing up the Kirlia. We're going to splash the energies onto Baxcalibur. Throw another on him as well. So we're going to take out the Kirlia. But Iron Boulder can just return this Baxcalibur, and then it's just a game-losing position, I feel like. But doing what he has to do to stay in the game, Ron, because it feels like he's been on the back foot from the beginning. Lee making all these very perfect plays to capitalize on the damage that Duskmoor puts out and the ability lock that Wobbuffet provides. So Lee's just had Ron in a tangle the whole game, the whole set, really. So Ron is going to take this knockout and go down to 3 prizes himself. That's his actual first prize taken of the game by himself. Non-donated, but still taken the same way. And now Ron with a hand size of 2. Lee promotes the boulder and draws out. Lee here can take a knockout with a heads flip, then the game's pretty much going to be in a... There's not much that Ron can do to come back from the deficit at this point, as we know that Ron only has ways to take multiple prizes through this Articuno, and if this Baxcalibur goes down, then it's even further away from attacking, and its attack is pretty weak unless you roll a bunch of heads, but you usually want to set it up where it can only flip, potentially 1 heads or no heads to be able to take 2 prizes. But Lee doesn't have any little guys down right now that's going to be happening to. So he does find a reversal energy, throws that down on the Togekiss, as Togekiss is also a good attacker in its own right. With its speed wing attack, 3 colorless energy for 140. Can't tell how many cards Lee has, but if it's... It's more than a couple. But not much more. Pokegear. And Lee's whole deck is in his hands right now. 7 cards left or less in the deck. He's been able to churn through with refinement turn after turn after turn up until Curly was knocked out. Gonna fail the Pokegear, as I kind of assumed may be the case if he's trying to match the hand size here. Tulip is gonna get back. Duskull and Dusknoir, as he still has rare candy available to him in the deck. Bench the Duskull, show him a 2-card hand, take a knockout, adjusted horn, and right at the last second rolls over a heads flip there to take 2 prize cards, jumping him to 1 prize card left in this game and match. If Hoffman can figure out 1 more knockout, then he will be able to close this out here. Notably now, that Togekiss, that reversal energy is only ever going to be 1 colorless energy from here on out. So that's the one thing that Ron has going for him, is that Lee's going to have to find some extra energy if he can knock out this boulder. But as we've said time and time again on the stream today, this boulder is such a weird number HP-wise for Ron to deal with. I just don't think the technology's there in 1 turn, unless a Wailord is involved, or a Kyogre. And right now, those plays do not look like they're available. And we've just seen, from my perspective, a lot of energy already down for Lee. There are a lot of resources already in the bin. So Tulip down. I don't know what Versus Seeker is. is in play still for Lee. I don't know if I've seen that card be played. I don't believe so, but it's the how to find those 2 energies out of a 2-card hand that may be the tricky part for the Togekiss. It's my viewpoint of that for those in the chat talking about the Kiss. All right, here we go. We've got the Raihan, so we are going to be able to attach an extra energy and search out a card. I bet at this point Ron really wishes that he had included a muscle band for this tournament, this playoff match. I don't see it in the list. I'm telling you, I'm going to draw a couple of extra cards after the Raihan. We're going to get an extra attachment to the Inteleon and Grudge Dive for 120 in Confusion onto this boulder. So now Lee starts the turn. Can't play teammates as no knockout was taken. Did he not? Did you just play teammates? He didn't knock anything out. I was like, immediately. All right, so we do catch that teammates play there is not a legal play, as Lee did not have anything knocked out the previous turn. So Ron's still in the game. We'll get a Clairvoyant Sense to draw 2. And Lee is just looking for the rare candy, so he can almost draw out his whole deck. There we go. Avery does draw out the deck, so teammates not really mattering in the end there of having been played or not been played. Glad that we could catch that, though, and note that that was not, a play that was allowed legally, but Lee is able to find the rare candy Dusknoir to pop the Dusknoir to take his final prize, leaving Ron sitting with 2 prizes left and making Lee the winner of this Gym Leader Challenge Playoffs match. So, with that said, another great game today that we've got to watch and see. I know that both Lee and Ron both have played a lot of games this year. I know that Ron is overseas, actually, so very thankful that he puts forth his time to stay up with us so that he can play these games. And you see Ron just caught a couple of bad breaks there in that game, but Lee able to kind of put the vice on him from the get-go and make it a couple of really quick games that Ron really couldn't weather in terms of the pressure that Lee was putting on. The pressure that Iron Boulder puts on is just very immense with this build that we were looking at today that Ron was playing. Just kind of damage capped out, not being able to easily hit 140 unless there were a whale involved. Just made it a little bit tough for him, I believe, in the long run. Togekiss did pull its weight there at the very end of the game, being able to roll that heads so that it could take another prize card ahead, leap forth another prize card ahead. Lee, like I mentioned, he had burned through a lot of his deck at that point, a lot of resources down. So being able to roll that heads off of Togekiss definitely made it shine there. So, again, another good game from these guys, and very thankful for anyone who stuck around today and hung out with us. If you're checking the VOD out later, then we will be live sometime next week, I'm sure, with the round 2 of the playoffs. I would imagine that these guys will get that sorted out pretty quickly, and we've got a lot on the horizon. So just look forward to stuff coming out from the channel. Thanks for all the support that you guys are giving us so far, and we look forward to doing more for you in the future. See you guys, and have a great Father's Day tomorrow and a great rest of your weekend.